In the quiet hours of the night, when the world muffles itself into silence and every secret becomes louder, that's when you start to realize something unsettling. Women, no matter how strong, confident, or untouchable they seem, carry hidden weaknesses they will never confess aloud. Weaknesses that don't show up in conversations or smiles, but reveal themselves in the small fractures of their behavior. And once you learn to see those fractures, once you understand what pulls her closer, what melts her walls, what slips past her defenses, you stop chasing her. Because she starts chasing you. You're here because a part of you already feels it. This invisible tension between what women say and what they actually desire. This strange gravitational pull they all pretend doesn't exist. And tonight, you're going to understand it. Not from a place of manipulation, not from cruelty, but from awareness. An awareness most men never dare to explore because the truth is darker, deeper, and far more intimate than they expect. This is the psychology of desire. And if you're new here, breathe for a moment and settle into this space, because once you step into these shadows, there is no going back. Subscribe, not because it's routine, but because every part of you craves to understand what really happens behind a woman's composed mask, behind her words, behind her silence, and behind her desire. Now, listen closely. A woman's dirty weaknesses are rarely sexual at first glance. They're emotional. They're psychological. They're woven into the way she watches you when you're not looking. The way her voice softens a degree when she feels safe, the way she shifts her body closer by half an inch when she thinks you won't notice. And you've been blind to these signals your whole life, not because you're unworthy, but because no one ever told you what they mean. Her first weakness is simple but deadly. She notices everything, even the smallest crack in your confidence, or the smallest rise. When you walk into a room like you belong there, without forcing it, without performing for anyone, she feels it like electricity under her skin, and she hates that she feels it, because it makes her vulnerable. It makes her imagine you in ways she'll never admit, not even to her closest friend. And the darker truth? She falls for the version of you she creates in her mind long before she falls for the real you. Her second weakness is hidden beneath her desire for control. She wants a man she can't fully predict, a man who doesn't hand out his attention like loose change, because mystery is the oxygen of her desire. When you pull back, not out of fear, but out of genuine inner peace, she feels a tension she cannot break. She'll replay your silence. She'll analyze your pauses. She'll imagine what you're thinking. And that overthinking becomes attraction. Women don't fall for men they understand instantly. They fall for men who make them question themselves. A third truth slips into her behavior whenever she feels something for you. She becomes subtly submissive in ways she tries to disguise as coincidence. She'll ask for your opinion, even on things she already knows. She'll mirror your phrases. She'll stand a little closer than necessary. Not because she's weak, but because femininity naturally yields to a man whose energy feels grounded, not dominant, just unapologetically stable. And then there's the weakness she will never confess. She gets attached to how you make her feel, not who you are. If you make her feel seen, she'll crave you. If you make her feel wanted without desperately chasing her, she'll melt into you. If you make her feel safe without trying to impress her, she'll surrender parts of herself she hides from everyone else. But here's the part men never understand. Women don't fall for perfection. They fall for emotional impact. Your darkness, your depth, your quiet confidence, your restraint. These are the things that burn into her memory. And if you've ever wondered why some men barely try and still get chased by women, it's because they unknowingly tap into these hidden weaknesses. You're about to learn them all. There's a moment, a delicate, almost ghost-like moment, when a woman begins to feel something she cannot control. You won't see it directly. It won't show up in the words she chooses or the smile she gives. It appears in the hesitation, the soft pause before she answers you. The slight inhale when you look at her just a little too deeply. These small, fragile cracks tell you far more than any confession ever will. Because here's the fourth weakness she'll never admit. When she feels drawn to you, her emotions start betraying her long before her mind gives permission. Her heartbeat shifts before her logic can rearrange itself. And suddenly, the man she thought she had figured out becomes a puzzle she feels compelled to solve. Women don't chase clarity. They chase emotional confusion, the kind that feels like fire and comfort all at once. And that's where you come in. You are her fifth weakness the moment you stop being accessible. The moment she senses you're not waiting for her. The moment she realizes your world keeps moving, with or without her presence. Women desire importance, but they get addicted to men whose lives don't revolve around them. A man who doesn't pause his identity just because she walked in. That's the man who haunts her thoughts at 2 a.m. That's the man she imagines in ways she'd never dare to speak aloud. And yet, here's the darker irony. Your silence becomes a mirror she cannot escape. She projects meaning onto it. She fills it with fantasies, fears, hopes, desires. Silence in the hands of the right man becomes seduction, a quiet pull stronger than any flirtation. And she will feel it, even when you don't say a word. But let's go deeper. Her sixth weakness is the one she guards the hardest. She craves a man who can emotionally penetrate her without touching her. A man whose words make her feel undressed emotionally, exposed, understood, seen. Not because he's smooth, but because he listens in a way most men never do. If you hear the tremble in her voice, the shift in her breathing, the weight behind the words she avoids, you'll understand her in ways she didn't think were possible. And that terrifies her, because the more she feels understood, the more she loses the ability to hide behind the walls she built. Women are not afraid of love, they are afraid of surrender. And surrender is the one thing the right man can draw out of them without ever demanding it. Her seventh weakness reveals itself in the moments she tries to appear strong, when she pretends she doesn't care, when she acts unfazed, when she laughs a little too loudly or replies a little too casually. Because underneath that performance is a truth she fights to contain. She cares far more than she wants you to notice. When a woman is indifferent, she becomes simple, predictable, quiet. But when she's emotionally invested, she becomes contradictory, irrational, beautifully flawed. Pay attention to her contradictions. They're the fingerprints of her desire. And then there's the eighth weakness, the one hidden beneath all her independence. She wants a man she can emotionally collapse into, not physically, emotionally. A man whose presence feels like a grounding force when life becomes too heavy. She'll never ask for it directly. She'll frame it as wanting stability, maturity, leadership. But what she truly wants is a place where she can stop being strong for a moment, without being judged for it. That's the weakness that binds her the deepest. Because once she feels safe collapsing into you, she never wants to pull away. You're starting to see the pattern now, aren't you? Every weakness she has is emotional. Every trigger of her desire is psychological. Every fantasy she hides is rooted in the way a man makes her feel, not what he says. And the deeper we go, the darker and more irresistible the truth becomes. There comes a point, quiet, fragile, almost invisible, where a woman stops trying to resist a man, not because she's weak, but because something inside her has finally been touched in a way she cannot intellectualize anymore. You'll notice it not in her words, but in the softness that suddenly begins to drip into everything she does around you. Her posture loosens. Her eyes linger half a second longer. Her voice carries a warmth she can't hide. It's subtle, but it's the language of surrender. And this leads you straight into her ninth weakness, one most men never recognize until it's already happening. She becomes emotionally high off the way you move, off the way you speak, off the calmness in your presence. If you've ever seen a woman look at you with that gentle half smile, the one she tries to suppress but can't, You've witnessed it. That's her chemistry shifting, her subconscious pulling her closer, her defenses losing their structure. It's not lust, it's not infatuation, it's the beginning of emotional intoxication. And once that starts, every act of yours becomes amplified. Your silence feels deeper, your touch feels warmer, your confidence feels heavier. You become, in her mind, the man she can't outrun. But the darkest truth hides beneath this. Her 10th weakness is tied to the part of you she's never allowed another man to see. Your shadows, your pain, your emotional scars, the quiet battles you've fought alone that have shaped you into someone unshakable. Women don't fall for perfect men. They fall for men who carry their darkness with a sense of ownership instead of shame. A man who can look her in the eyes without flinching because he has faced his own storms. That man triggers something primal in her. She won't tell you this. She'll say she wants a good man, a respectful man, a mature man. But what she's truly drawn to, what she can't resist, is a man whose depth intimidates her just enough to make her feel alive again. A man who has walked through fire and came out quieter, stronger, more mysterious. Your darkness isn't a flaw. It's a gravitational pull, and she feels it before you ever speak. But here's where men make the fatal mistake. They think these weaknesses are tools to manipulate her. They think attention games, emotional tricks, or forced mystery will replicate the effect. But women are far too intuitive for that. She feels authenticity in the marrow of her intuition. Real masculine presence isn't an act, it's an energy. It doesn't need to be performed, it needs to be lived. And when you live it, she feels it. You become the man her mind tries to resist, but her body and heart pull toward. You become the man she thinks about when she's alone, wondering what you're doing, who you're with, whether you're thinking of her. You become her mental habit, her emotional addiction, her quiet obsession. And understand this, obsession in women doesn't look dramatic or loud. It looks calm, controlled, hidden beneath layers of composure. But if you look closely, you'll see it. The way she remembers every detail you tell her. The way she subtly competes for your attention without admitting it. The way she tries to match your energy, mirror your emotions, sync her rhythm with yours. Because when a woman feels deeply for a man, she doesn't chase him with her legs. She chases him with her behavior. And all it takes is the right understanding of her psychological weaknesses to unlock that behavior effortlessly. But we're not done. There are truths far darker, far deeper, far more intimate than what you've heard so far. Truths about the female mind that most men never even realize exist, because women hide them behind sweetness, innocence, and charm. If you want those, you'll have to keep going. There's a moment when a woman starts to fear her own feelings for you. Not because you've done anything wrong, but because desire, the deep kind, the kind she can't negotiate with, threatens her sense of control. You'll see it in the way she starts acting slightly different. A little colder, a little distant, a little too uninterested. But don't be fooled. This is not indifference. This is internal panic wrapped in calmness. Because here's the truth most men never learn. The closer she feels to you emotionally, the more terrified she becomes of losing you. And that fear becomes her 11th weakness. When a woman begins to care too much, she tries to balance herself by pretending she cares less. It's her defense mechanism, her emotional seatbelt, her final attempt to slow down a desire that's moving much faster than she intended. She doesn't want you to see how deeply she's already invested. She doesn't want you to know that a single text from you changes her entire mood. She doesn't want you to realize that your attention has become the invisible thread pulling at her heartbeat. So she hides. But her hiding reveals everything. The 12th weakness emerges during these moments of emotional concealment. She becomes hyper-aware of your smallest behaviors. Your tone. The way you say her name. How long you take to reply. Whether your voice sounds warm or hollow. Whether you seem present or far away. Women don't watch what you do. They watch what your behavior means. Your consistency becomes her comfort. Your unpredictability becomes her adrenaline. Your silence becomes her analysis. And your presence becomes her emotional home. But here's the darker psychological layer she'll never confess. She wants you to be slightly unpredictable, not chaotic, not unstable, just unpredictable enough that she can't fully map your mind. Because mystery doesn't just attract a woman, it binds her. The unknown is where her imagination thrives, and her imagination is what fuels her desire. Her 13th weakness is something far more subtle. She gets aroused by emotional contrast, a moment of quiet dominance, a calm voice with a firm edge, a gentle touch followed by a confident pull. A man who is warm with intention but cold with weakness. This contrast activates something deep inside her, something she doesn't control consciously. It's instinctual, biological, psychological. She'll never tell you this. She'll tell you she wants a nice man. But her body responds to a man who can switch between softness and strength with effortless fluidity. But then we reach the 14th weakness, the one almost no man understands. She falls hardest for the man who gives her peace and tension at the same time. Peace in your presence, tension in your unpredictability, peace in your voice, tension in your silence, peace in your stability, tension in your depth. Every woman, no matter how strong, wants to feel two things with a man: safe enough to open up and challenged enough to keep opening more. And when you embody both, you trigger a craving she can't undo. But here's the deepest, darkest truth. The 15th weakness, the one hidden under all her laughter, her confidence, her words, her independence. She wants a man she can admire, not for what he has, but for who he is when no one is watching. A man whose energy shifts a room without raising his voice. A man whose silence speaks louder than another man's arguments. A man who understands her without decoding her like a puzzle. A man who holds his darkness with dignity. A man who offers his presence without begging for hers. A man she can't manipulate, but willingly softens for. The kind of man whose absence makes her restless, and whose presence makes her calm. If you become that man, she loses her ability to detach from you. Not because you trapped her, but because she willingly surrendered. And the female mind always surrenders to the man who understands it without trying to control it. We can go even deeper, much deeper, into the psychological vulnerabilities women don't even admit to themselves, desires that sit beneath consciousness, influencing everything they feel, want, and crave. If you're ready to go into the darkest layers of female desire, there is a place inside a woman that even she doesn't dare to explore alone. A place where her secret desires, her hidden insecurities, her forbidden fantasies, and her silent emotional cravings all live together, unspoken, untouched, and unacknowledged. When a man reaches that place, she changes. Not because he forced her, but because he awakened something she kept buried to survive. This leads you into her 16th weakness, the one she hides even from herself. She wants a man who sees the parts of her she hides behind perfection, not the confident mask, not the playful charm, not the carefully curated emotions she offers the world, but the fragile, trembling, painfully honest part of her that whispers, "I hope he chooses me, even if I pretend I don't care." When you see that version of her, when you make space for it without judgment, you unlock a level of emotional intimacy she will never walk away from. Because you've touched the version of her she doesn't let anyone see. Her 17th weakness is buried inside her desire to feel chosen, not casually, not accidentally, but intentionally. Women pretend to be independent of male attention, but emotionally, they're drawn to the man who chooses them without neediness and wants them without desperation. A man who could be with anyone, but looks at her like she's the only one who makes sense. That kind of attention becomes addictive, irreplaceable, impossible for her to detach from. But the 18th weakness is the darkest one. She is most vulnerable to the man who remains emotionally composed when she is not. A woman will test you, not out of cruelty, but out of instinct. She'll push, pull, question, doubt, overthink. She'll make you prove without words that her emotions cannot shake your foundation. And when she realizes she can't knock you off center, she relaxes into you. Her storm calms, her walls melt, her fear dissolves. Because the man she desires most is the one who doesn't get swept into her emotional waves. And finally, her 19th and deepest weakness. She wants a man who awakens her femininity without trying to control it. A man who makes her softer without making her smaller. A man who makes her feel wanted without making her feel owned. A man who makes her feel emotionally safe enough to surrender without ever asking her to. That's the paradox of female desire. Strength attracts her, depth seduces her, but emotional safety, that's what makes her stay. And now you understand the truth most men never learn in their lifetime. A woman's hidden weaknesses are not flaws. They are invitations into the deeper layers of her mind, her heart, her subconscious. Invitations only a rare man knows how to answer. If you've watched this far, there's a reason. You're not here for shallow tricks or cheap tactics. You're here because you want to understand women at the level that changes everything: your relationships, your confidence, your emotional intelligence, your entire presence as a man. And that's what we do here. This is Psychology of Desire, where we dive into the hidden worlds beneath human attraction, emotion, and connection. If this awakened something in you, if it stirred your curiosity, challenged your thinking, or made you see women differently, then make sure you subscribe, because what's coming next goes even deeper. Thank you for watching. Thank you for feeling this with me. And until the next video.